I built a business that looked successful on the outside. High revenue, constant growth, and a full calendar. But somewhere along the way, I forgot myself. I sacrificed my time, my energy, and my boundaries for the business. And eventually, I started resenting the very thing that I had poured everything into. So I rebuilt everything. Today, I run a lean consulting business around my personal brand, and I work with a handful of aligned clients. I prioritize high profit over high revenue, and I structure my business around my identity. In this video, I'll show you how to build and scale your own consulting business to 20K a month by being fully you. It's built on what I call the brand DNA framework. 6 months ago, I was running a high volume coaching program generating over $1 million in revenue. On paper, it looked incredible. But after ad spend, co-coach, salaries, closers, setters, and honestly just being reckless with my profit, I was keeping less than 30%. And that's pretty bad for a personal brand business that can't be sold. If you're building something tied to your name, high profit isn't optional. It's essential. Every month, revenue would come in and then almost immediately go back out. And I remember opening Stripe and Slack in the same breath every morning. Stripe to see what came in and Slack to see what broke overnight. And it was so high stress. I was teaching women how to start a simple service-based business and sign their first clients, while I was running anything but a simple business myself. I was spending tens of thousands of dollars every month on ads. I was managing a team of 10 and I was hosting live events with thousands of attendees. And on paper, everything was very impressive. But in reality, it was fragile and every part of it felt heavy, very heavy. I started my business because I wanted to do meaningful work. I wanted to create what I once needed and to be in control of my own time. Instead, I found myself stuck inside a complex machine, working endless hours for shrinking margins, constantly managing problems, exhausted, disconnected, and slowly resenting the very thing that I had poured my heart into. So I made a bold decision. I shut down Businesswoman Startup, my coaching program. I stepped away, I zoomed out, and I decided to rebuild from scratch. But this time, on completely different terms. Here is what I learned the hard way. Most people don't build businesses that are actually good. They build businesses that are just big. They chase volume instead of high quality clients. They choose stress over peace. They trade authenticity for virality. And they obsess over scaling instead of building something sustainable. And the problem is, when you try to speak to everyone, you end up building for no one. Think of it a bit like a premium reformer Pilates studio. A high-end studio isn't trying to get every person on the planet who wants to get in shape. That's what regular gyms do. A premium studio wants the people who specifically want Pilates. People who care about the craft, the experience, and the energy. And because the business isn't built on one-time transactions, it's built on retention, trust, and consistency, the environment matters. There's no chaos, there's no overcrowding, and no frantic energy. Everything is calm, structured, because capacity is limited on purpose. They're not branding themselves with discounts and guarantees. They're not trying to make every video go viral, because viral is for the masses and premium is for the aligned. Even when demand is high, they don't cram more reformers into the room to make more money, because the second they overbook, quality drops and the brand stops feeling premium. People gladly pay premium prices, but only if the experience stays premium. So the studio focuses on what creates loyalty. Skilled instructors, a calm aesthetic space, and thoughtful details. The sauna, the cold plunge, and the coffee bar. And that's exactly how I think about business and content now. Instead of working with everyone willing to pay or optimizing everything for scale, I do it differently. I optimize my business for sustainability. I create value for my actual audience, not the algorithm. And I speak to a specific person, not everybody. And I show up as myself, honest, grounded, human. It's like building for longevity instead of chasing scale at all costs. So now let me show you how this works. We're going to walk through the first part of the brand DNA framework and build it up one piece at a time. So I created the brand DNA framework around one core principle. When your content expresses a clear identity, it filters out misalignment and attracts the right people, and it protects your peace. So the first part of the brand DNA framework is what I call your content identity. This one. This is the foundation. And it matters because it determines how people think about you long before they ever buy. It answers the silent question in your audience mind. Why you? When your content identity is clear, you never have to wonder how to stand out from competitors again. Because you're not trying to outperform them, you're simply positioned differently. And it also removes a huge amount of mental friction that comes with creating content constantly. When you know who you are and how you think, content stops feeling like performance and it starts feeling like expression. So here's how it works. These are the parts to building your content identity. First of all, define your content identity clearly. So we start here. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you refuse to do? And why do you do what you do? Second one, positioning yourself in a way that naturally differentiates you. So not by being louder, but by being more specific. And third, optimizing your profile so the moment someone lands on your page, there is no confusion about who it's for and why it matters. Now, let me give you an example of this. Like Sophie, for example. Before, she struggled constantly with content. She felt pressure to be polished, professional, and impressive. But once she built out her content identity properly, something shifted. She stopped trying to sound like everybody else. She stopped overthinking. And now she doesn't struggle to create content at all because she understands that her perspective is the differentiator. She started enjoying content again. And when you enjoy creating it, you create more of it consistently without burnout. And most people, they miss this entirely because they believe that their branding needs to look flawless and hyper professional to be taken seriously. But that's the first mistake. When you create unrealistic standards for how your content should look, then you create resistance, you over-edit, you delay posting, you second guess every caption, and eventually you either stop posting or you blend in. Because perfection is generic, clarity is what makes you stand out. And if you skip this step, you'll always feel like you're competing. But when you build this properly, you stop competing entirely. The second part of the brand DNA framework is what I call building out your brand. If part one is the foundation, then this is the visible structure. This is what people actually see when they first come across you. And it determines one thing very quickly. Do they lean in or do they just scroll past? Because let's be honest, most content online gets filtered out within seconds. This part will decide whether someone follows you and stays long enough to eventually become a client, or whether you become part of the 98% they forget immediately. And once this is built out properly, you stop asking, what do I post? When do I post? Is this good enough? Because you're no longer guessing. So here is how it works. There are 3 parts to building out your brand. First of all, structured content planning. Not random inspiration, not posting when you feel like it, but a clear plan aligned with your content identity. Second one, clarity on what to post and when. So, different types of content, they serve different purposes. Some build authority, some build connection, and some build demand. And you need all 3 of them intentionally. Third, a simple, repeatable way to create your content. Not a 17-step production process, not something that takes hours and drains you. Just a clean system that allows you to express your thinking consistently. Let's go back to Sophie for a moment. Once she built out her content identity, we implemented this second part. And now she has what I call a smooth content machine. She knows what kind of value she's here to give. She knows how to structure her ideas. She posts consistently without forcing it. And the biggest shift, she no longer feels like she has to convince people to work with her. Her content does the filtering and the attracting automatically. Most people, they miss this step because they overcomplicate content creation. They think they need more strategy, more hacks, more trends. But what they actually need is simplicity. A process for brainstorming, a process for creating, and a process for publishing. Content should feel structured but enjoyable, not like the to-do you keep delaying until the end of the day. And here is how this connects back to component 1. If your content identity is unclear, this stage feels chaotic. But when your content identity is defined, this part becomes execution, not guessing. Third part of the brand DNA framework is what I call let your brand thrive. This is what completes the system, because without this part, content will always feel like a treadmill. You'll always constantly need new ideas, more posts, more input. And you'll feel like you're in a race you can't win, especially if you're selling a service. Without this layer, you'll never unlock the full potential of your personal brand, because growth doesn't just come from constant creation, it comes from intelligent leverage. And this part does two things. It makes your content better over time, and it allows you to multiply what you've already created instead of always starting from scratch. So here is how it works. First of all, long-form content. For example, YouTube. Long-form content builds depth, authority, and trust in a way that short-form never can. It becomes your foundation asset. Second, you leverage and reformat what you already created. Instead of reinventing new ideas every week, you cycle them. For example, one YouTube video can become multiple Instagram posts, and one core idea becomes multiple angles. This will make your thinking compound instead of disappearing in the feed. And third one, data analysis and adjustments. No obsessive analytics, no chasing vanity metrics, but observing what resonates, really defining your messaging. This is where you strengthen what already works. This is how your brand starts working for you instead of you constantly working for it. We generated tens of thousands in revenue every single month purely from organic content. No chaos, no constant trend chasing, just a clear identity, structured execution, and intelligent leverage. And most people miss this because they treat content emotionally. They post when they feel like it. They hope it performs. And when it doesn't, they conclude, social media just doesn't work for me. But it's not that it doesn't work, it's that there was no system. Because when you combine clear identity, structured brand building, and intelligent strategic leverage, your content stops being random and it becomes an ecosystem. And ecosystems, they grow. Here's why the brand DNA framework isn't more complicated. It's actually simpler. Most people think that systems add complexity, but the right systems removes noise. Before this, I operated from comparison. I looked at others in my niche and assumed that I should do what they were doing. If they used the format, I copied it. If they launched a certain way, I followed it. I was a perfectionist. If content wasn't a 10 out of 10 in my head, it didn't get posted. And when I created the same style of content that others were winning with, and mine barely moved, I got so demotivated. I assumed I just needed more visibility. More views, more followers, more reach. I thought growth meant attention at all costs. Now I see it very differently. I highlight what makes me different. I don't blend in. I emphasize contrast. I don't measure my content by how perfect it looks. I measure it by, does it strengthen my brand? Is it honest? Does it resonate with my ideal client? And you can borrow formats, but the thinking must be yours. I don't care about massive follower numbers. I care about attracting the right people. Because it's not the number of followers that matters. It's the quality. And this is where it compounds. When content is structured around identity, clarity replaces chaos. One piece becomes into several, and there is no "what do I post next" panic. With defined KPIs, I don't rely on emotions. I look on data and adjust. And over time, content compounds. Old posts keep working, new people discover them, loyalty deepens, positioning strengthens, and your identity, brand, and content stop feeling separate. It becomes a system. Run that for 12 months instead of 12 weeks, and it becomes unfair. And the alternative, well, chasing virality, copying everybody else, staying busy, but building nothing sustainable. Now, if you want to start applying the brand DNA framework, here's what that actually looks like. Not in theory, but in practice. So step 1, clarify your brand DNA. Before you touch your content, you clarify your identity. Not your niche, not your offer, your identity. What do you believe that others in your space don't? What do you refuse to compromise on? And what kind of business do you actually want to wake up to? Because if your business model and your identity don't match, scaling it will only amplify misalignment. This is where most people, they skip ahead. They try to fix content when the real issue is clarity. Step 2, translate identity into structure. Once your brand DNA is clear, you build a structure around it. This is where identity becomes execution. So you define your core content themes, your messaging angles, your positioning, your content rhythm. Now you're no longer asking, what should I post? You're operating from alignment. And that removes 80% of content stress immediately. And step 3, activate the leverage loop. Then you stop creating content randomly. You build leverage. You use long-form depth. And you repurpose intentionally. You track meaningful KPIs. You refine based on insight, not emotion. And now your content compounds instead of disappearing. And here's what most people don't expect. The first sign of this working isn't more followers. It's that some people unfollow. Because when you step fully into your identity, you naturally filter people out. And that's not a loss, that is clarity. While some leave, the right people lean in. They engage more, they respond more, and they feel understood. And that's how you know your positioning is sharpening. From there, you use data to refine alignment, not chase validation. You double down on what resonates and you remove what doesn't. And over time, your brand becomes precise, more distinct, and more powerful. To be super transparent with you guys, I'm still refining this myself. I'm still sharpening my messaging, finding my positioning, and aligning my content even more closely with my identity. But what's already working is this. I feel clearer and I feel calmer. And I'm building something that I can actually sustain long term. This approach aligns with my values because it's not about building the biggest thing possible. It's about building something that's intentional and sustainable. It's about building something that fits who you are and the life that you actually enjoy living. And if you're watching this and you recognize yourself in the earlier version of me, the one chasing growth but slowly losing alignment, I just want you to know there is another way to do it. Not louder, not bigger, just clearer. If this resonates with you and you're starting to feel like there might be a better way to build your brand without chaos and overwhelm, then send me a message on Instagram. Tell me what feels misaligned right now. Tell me what kind of business you actually want to build. And even if we never work together, that clarity alone will change everything. And if you do decide to use the brand DNA framework, then start with identity. Because when that's clear, everything else becomes simpler.